Hello, this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech doing a speculation and investment video for August 2015. Things are really crazy currently because we just had Eternal Weekend and Origins has made a splash both in standard and even in older formats. Let's jump right in here and talk about some specific cards. Right now I'm avoiding Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is warping the legacy meta. There are lots of fair decks that just can't compete with Dig Through Time decks. Combo decks and control decks can both use Dig Through Time. I don't expect to see Dig Through Time remain legal past the GP here in Seattle, and Wizards might even ban it before we get to the Legacy GP here in Seattle. By the way, I'm going to be at that GP. Anybody who's a fan of the channel who's in the area, please look me up. I'm more than willing to chat with people, play some games. Gataxian Probe here is another one that I'm going out on a limb. I like this card better than Serum Visions. Knowledge is really, really powerful. The fact that it can be free, that you can snap it back with a Snapcaster. I am super happy with this card. The more I play it, the more I value the knowledge you get from it. We did not see a reprint of it in Modern Masters. We only have the promo. Commons start to dry up. I think this could be the next $8 to $10 staple in Modern. It's also seeing huge play in Legacy. Now that people have figured out how powerful this card is, I don't see it dropping. The Zendikar versus Eldrazi dual decks have the full list up online. I would definitely go take a look at those to make sure that you're not buying into anything that's about to be massively available. These are the big cards. It That Betrays is going to tank in price, at least half of what it currently is. Avoid it right now, but all of the cards that are on this list, I would definitely look at picking up 2 months, 3 months from now. Avenger Zendikar is an all-time favorite in EDH. It That Betrays is a huge EDH card. Primal Command occasionally sees play outside of EDH. Stirring Wildwood has the potential to be a very powerful card in Modern, and Forked Bolt is amazing in Modern. I really like it against robots. 1 casting cost, hit 2 creatures, that also allows you to go to the face if there isn't a target out there. This is a card that I'm happy to have an extra playset of in my trade binder. Would I pick up the deck for its value? Probably not. If you want some interesting decks to play against each other, they look interesting. I'll probably do a review on the dual deck after it actually comes out. Value-wise, I would avoid the dual deck and just pick up the singles over time. Dak Faden is incredible. We just had Eternal Weekend, and Dak was all over the top 32. Workshops were also all over that tournament, and I'll get to that in a second. But I would start buying Dak Fadens again. Dak Faden is better than Jace. It's extremely playable in EDH, Legacy, Vintage. He's going to continue to climb. I still think that his foil price is a bit crazy at the $400 level, but I'm starting to see less of them available. As Dak goes up, maybe that foil price will eventually be justified. Arcbound Ravager was also all over the place in Eternal Weekend as a way to help deal with artifact removal, bounce counters around. Also has some interesting synergy with another card that we're going to look at on this list. Arcbound Ravager is a staple in Modern. I would definitely hold on to them. I know they're a little bit high right now, but it could be a while before we see a reprint. And once we get to Modern season next year, everybody is going to want these for robots. Jace has found a deck. In fact, Jace has found several decks. Jace is even being played in Legacy at this point. Legacy is a very small market compared to Standard. That's why I'm suggesting that people get out of non-foil Jaces at this point. $35 is a very nice price to get out of a current Standard Mythic. If he has playability long-term in Legacy, $65 is a very low price for a Mythic that is playable in Legacy. I would hold or buy foils at this point. Since starting to work on producing this video, the San Diego Comic-Con foils have jumped through the roof. I would even be willing to pick them up at that 90 to 140 range that they're currently at because they're extremely limited print run and they're going to be the premier version to have for legacy or modern players if Jace really ends up being playable long term. The one thing I want to warn you about is the foils on these in the past have been very, very fragile. If you put them in perfect fits, the black starts to shear off. I haven't gotten a chance to look at the new ones this year. I hope to get a close look at them, but I would be very, very careful with them if you pick up the San Diego Comic-Con um, versions of the Planeswalkers. Put them in a sleeve once and leave them there. I was asked to kind of evaluate the other Planeswalkers at this point. Overall, the Origins Planeswalkers are doing rather well by having an impact on Standard. Nissa is up over $30. Now is the time to sell Nissa, although Battle for Zendikar could have a ramp deck where Nissa is popular again, but I don't see her going much above 40 at most. Chandra, on the other hand, has had little to no impact. I'm avoiding her. Liliana is doing really well in Standard right now, but has failed to make an impact yet in Modern. That's where you've got to watch out for her long term. I'm avoiding Liliana, although I wouldn't mind getting one of the San Diego Comic-Con versions just because it's beautiful. Gideon, I'm holding on to. A lot of people think that he's going to continue to drop. Once we see set rotations and Battle for Zendikar, aggro decks might take over for a short period of time, and I think that Gideon could spike up if he's being played. In fact, double in price overnight. So I'm trading for an extra playset of Gideons with the intent that I trade them out or hold on to them long term as a card for tiny leaders will make a wonderful leader for a mono white deck. Last month I talked about Hangerback Walker, and I told everybody to sell them out a bit too early. The card is more powerful than I thought it was, and it plays in more archetypes. It was all over the place for Eternal Weekend. For Vintage, it's a very, very powerful card, especially if your opponent is just destroying your artifacts. This card gives them a lot of different 1/1s to deal with. And most Vintage players do not have a solid answer to that. Even in Standard, though, I've seen this guy put in more decks than I can count. He's going to be a staple for the next few years. Got a playset, hold on to it and play it. That sell that I had earlier, I think he's hit his high point here, so it would be okay to sell him. There's a strong chance, given how popular he is, that I think we'll see him in an event deck or in a dual deck as a way to sell those. Now the foils, specifically, I would buy at this point. Eternally playable staples are usually 3 to 4 times the foil value of the non-foil. And right now you can find foils for between 25 and 35. Pick up those foils and hold on to them for their eternal playability. Another side note out there is workshops are continuing to go up. They were all over the place for Eternal Weekend. I had somebody offer me a time walk for a workshop about 2 weeks ago that I turned down. Workshops being a 4 of makes them really high demand right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see them up around the $1,500 to $1,800 range in the next few months. Mana Drain took number 2 at Eternal Weekend. I had a little bit of flack earlier over playing Mana Drain. Mana Drain traditionally is thought of as something that you counter a big spell and then you cast something like a Wormcoil Engine for free. Where Mana Drain is really powerful to me is being able to get the 2 colorless to play Jace and keep a counter spell up. Mana Drain will always be popular in EDH. It's a classic card for cubes. At this point, I'm picking them up in English for that 2 to 230 range and in Italian for the 1 to 150 range. They will always trade well. Additionally, now is the time to start getting back into Jace the Mind Sculptor. From the Vault, tank the price on him. I've had a lot of people who've had interest in trading for Jace recently and are willing to trade really nice Eternal staples. I think a lot of people got out of Jace when he was up over 125, 150, and now that he's at a reasonable price, they're putting him back into their cubes or into their EDH decks or even into legacy and vintage decks. Modern is really, really crazy right now. The modern season is over, and we see a lot of cards dropping in price because of that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be holding onto some cards or even buying some modern cards. Snapcaster Mage is dropping, but I'm holding on to him. I'm not selling out of Snapcaster Mage. Once we get to the next modern season, if we haven't seen a reprint or if we see a Judge reprint or a very limited foil reprint, he's going to start shooting back up again. Blood Moon is a staple in the environment. I'm holding on to them. This is probably the highest risk recommendation is holding on to Blood Moon. Blood Moon could easily see its way into an event deck or a dual deck. On the other hand, Tarmogoyf, I'm avoiding for another 3 months. I've had no less than 4 people offer to sell me playsets of Tarmogoyf below market significantly in the last month. There's a lot of Tarmogoyfs out there since we've got 3 printings. Individuals who are unsure whether they're going to continue on with Modern or have decided on a deck that don't include Tarmogoyf are looking for a way to pick up some cash and then possibly reinvest in 6 to 8 months. I think they're going to hit their low in December. That's when I would pick up a playset of Tarmogoyfs if I needed them. A lot of people have been asking me about alternatives to the fetch lands. Since the fetch lands are not going to be in Battle to Zendikar, I really hope we see the fetch lands somewhere, maybe Commander. But right now, the best alternative, and in some cases a significantly better choice for your deck, are the fast lands. I'm trading for 4 out of 5 of these. Seachrome Coast, Darkslick Shores, Razor Verge Thicket, and Copperline Gorge are all well underpriced. If you've got a deck in Modern that has a curve at 4 or less, these are a strong possibility. If your curve is 3 or less, these are a necessity. Not taking life off of them matters in a significant number of matchups. The fact that they come into play untapped early on makes them better than check lands or lands like filter lands where you need to have another land already into play. Aggro decks really like these. Any deck where you need to preserve your life total, like Fairies with Bitter Blossom, I like these a lot better than Fetches and Shocks. Blackcleave Cliff has already shot through the roof at $17, but I'm actually holding it there because red-black is the combination that can take the best advantage of the speed you get out of these decks. I also really like the Seachrome Coast because it doesn't get tapped down to choke, and if you're playing a more aggro red, white, blue deck, it's a very solid first turn drop so that you've got Path to Exile or a cantrip available. The other cards that I'm really recommending buying in Modern is anything from Modern Masters 2015 that is really the bottom dropped out of compared to where it was a few months ago. On the competitive side, Noble Hierarch is wonderful, and 18 months from now, I'm going to be looking back at this $35 investment, and I'll easily be able to trade that away for twice that. Wilt Leaf Liege is a powerhouse in the right deck, and if Liliana ever takes off again, is a wonderful answer to Lily. At $5, I'm picking them up. And on the casual side, Tezzeret the Seeker is a wonderful card, and at $5, I can't turn down a EDH playable Planeswalker. Iona has finally hit her low point. She was just reprinted twice with From the Vault and Modern Masters. Now is a great time to pick her up. Just don't play her in EDH. I've got a few other cards here that I'm recommending buying. One of those is Infernal Tutor. Infernal Tutor has always been a powerhouse in Legacy. I think that it could see some play in Modern. It combos with Lion's Eye Diamond, but I also like the idea of comboing it with a very fast deck that empties your hand. Dramoka's Command is playable in Modern and really low right now because of the Clash Pack printing. I would definitely pick them up for Modern, especially foil or foreign foil versions of them. Courser of Kruphix is a wonderful card. It has hit its low point at that $4 to $6 range Some people think it's going to tank even farther when it rotates out, but I think people are going to remember that it's modern playable and it will slowly creep back up over time. I'm not trading them off at this current level. I'm not actively trading for any more. I've got enough of them, but I'm not getting rid of them. I'm waiting for them to go back up. Two other amazing cards to pick up right now are Collected Company, which was in that same Clash pack, and Anafenza. Anafenza is seeing a good amount of play in Standard, is a great creature for EDH, and could see some decent play in Modern. Tron is a powerhouse. It's a great deck. It's a fun deck. It's the battle cruiser of Magic. It is one of the easiest decks to pick up and play some amazing plays out of. To play it well, it's actually pretty difficult. It is always going to be a favorite because you get to play these giant spells. With regards to that deck, I would still buy Crucible of Worlds. It's a great sideboard card. And I would go for Karn Liberated. He's at his low point right now at 35. Karn could easily be a $70 planeswalker in a year or two. I have a lot of people ask me about buying graded cards. Is it a good idea? Is it a good investment? Most people want Magic cards to actually play them, but you can get really high quality versions of cards that are graded where you are 100% sure that they are authentic, and they are usually not much more expensive than buying the cards regularly. The Alpha Berserk here at $199 is very reasonable. That's about what you're going to pay for a near mint or slightly played version. Ancestral is crazy expensive, but if you're going to put out several $1,000s for a single card, it's nice to have that assurance that you know that it's real. And if I was in the market for a Tabernacle right now, $850 for a near mint graded 9 is really nice. Although honestly, if I bought this, I would just crack it open and put it into my sideboard of lands as a second Tabernacle. Cards are meant to be shuffled. If you like this video, please exile that subscribe button and restart the game as a subscriber. Thank you. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. I appreciate everybody who's out there on Patreon supporting the channel. I've got 3 new patrons here in the credits in Yo-Yo Junkie, A Victor, and Rick McLennan. What you guys do for the channel is amazing. Greatly appreciate it. If you would like to become a sponsor, please head over to Patreon at the $5 level. You can have your name in the credits also.